So thank you all for joining. Thank you as well to our volunteers. And most importantly, thank you to our guest speaker for this evening, Eric Lauterbach. Eric is with us from out in California, and he's a 1989 graduate of our California Gamma chapter at UC Santa Barbara. After college, Eric joined our headquarters staff and went on to earn an MBA from Pepperdine University. And ever since, Eric has created a lot of success for himself, his teams, across a number of different business aspects, including sales, marketing, and business development at a lot of different levels of operations. He's worked for a number of different companies that you probably recognize, like Procter & Gamble, Clorox, Attune Foods, and he is now the president and chief operating officer of Peets Coffee. Eric's experience over the last few years has put him in places to grow organizations, to lead really complex teams, and to find ways to creatively motivate individuals and entire branches of companies to not only make the right decisions, but to navigate really difficult situations and to ultimately come out better on the other side of those situations. And most recently, Eric has led Peets through the process of finding avenues for success amid all things COVID-19. And he's graciously with us tonight to share the lessons that he's learned and the words of wisdom he's picked up with you along the way. I hope that you all find that you will likely relate to a number of the similar scenarios that Eric has found himself in, and the methods and habits that he has for both self and organizational motivation, I hope are ones that you find you can apply in your life and in your chapter. When he's not just crushing it in the professional world, Eric is also a great family man. He invests a lot of his time with his wife, Martina, and his 3 children, and over the years has been a coach for a wide variety of sports and served on a number of school boards as his kids have grown. So we're incredibly thankful to Eric for sharing his time with us and wisdom with us this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Hey, great. Thanks, Sean. And welcome, everybody. Appreciate the time tonight. You're taking an hour out of your evening. I'm just kind of wrapping up my day here on the West Coast. I'll share a little bit about myself and then kind of talk about some of what's going on at Peets and leave it to you to figure out how to translate some of that into your chapters. I won't profess to understand the challenges you all have now during these times on campus, but maybe a few of the examples I'll share here may trigger a couple of thoughts, and then I do encourage. I'm going to leave some time for questions at the end, so certainly we'll hope we can do that as well. Let me see, make sure I can move the slide forward here. All right. So first, a couple of things how I got here, and as I was looking at the participants coming in, I see a Penn Lambda representative. Penn Lambda was one of the chapters I covered as an RD, but my path here, and I think it warrants repeating or sharing, I guess, for context for the rest of the discussion is, as an undergrad at Santa Barbara, I was a chapter president. I was recruited by Procter & Gamble and I had a job offer. I was actually a poli-sci major who was going to get a paying job. My dad was thrilled to go work for Procter & Gamble. And I turned that down to go be an RD and work for $6,000 a year for SigEp with old RD, who's a great mentor of mine, still friends to this day. And years later, after serving on the staff for 3 years, I came back and worked at Procter for 8 years. And through that, a number of moves, a couple of startups along the way, ended up at Peets. But here's what I'd want you to take away from that. I think a lot of, and I reflect on this quite a bit, a lot of the leadership lessons I've learned, and as I've run bigger organizations, led bigger teams, a lot of that formative experience really started as a chapter president many more years ago than I'd like to count right now at Santa Barbara. And I tell this story a lot because I think it's just a great one of not many people turn down P&G. And when I did this, the guy who was hiring me says, "You can't do that. That's a job. This is a career." And if I look back now at my business career, I think that's one of those decisions I would make again. I can't say that about all the decisions, but that's one that's a no-brainer that I've made. And it's paid off in terms of friendships and experiences to this day. But all of that kind of led me to Peets, where I've been now 10 years. I'll tell you a little bit about Peets because I think it may give you a little context for what we've been wrestling with this last year. We're founded in good old Berkeley, California. We like to say we're the original craft coffee. So we were here before Starbucks. So Peets and Starbucks, for those of you sports fans, it's kind of like Giants Dodgers or big rivalries like that. We were public when I joined, then we got taken private. We're knocking on around $1 billion in sales, which is not easy to do, and it's been harder to maintain this last year. And I'm currently the president and the COO. So what that means is I've got responsibilities for a couple thousand people across a number of functions: sales, marketing, procurement, supply chain, operations. And that encompasses a bunch of very different work groups and different populations of people. There's roasting plant employees that are an hourly population. If you think about the challenges we had this year of trying to keep people coming into a plant to roast and pack and ship the coffee, that was not easy. It's a pretty scary time for people to do that. A headquarters staff in Emeryville. I'm here in Emeryville, which is right next to Berkeley now. There may be 10 people in this office right now, and an office that usually holds 300. And then we got a whole bunch of people spread across the country. So trying to figure out how to keep, a business together and keep people motivated and engaged and communicating when literally everything has been turned on its head has been a little challenging. There is nothing in my MBA class or all my years of experience that prepared us for any of this, right? For any of this. And we just had a board meeting today, which is really funny because, it's not like we can ask the board members, what did you guys do in the last pandemic? You kind of have to make that up as you go along a little bit, but I'll talk a little bit about kind of my philosophy and what we've done as a leadership team. And maybe some of that will be helpful and resonate a little bit. So we go back to March. I'd say the first thing first, we had to stay open, okay? And this was one of the first things we did. We got together, we split up, we were on Zoom calls. We said, we're going to stay open. We were declared an essential business, and we were taking there's a lot of challenge in that because people said, you're a coffee shop, you're not really essential, you're not a first line responder. We can't send people into coffee shops, they can get sick with the customer. You can't have people in the plant, they can get sick. We created different staffing models, we created different no-touch service models, we created no-entry models. We said we had to stay open. And the last piece here is we dealt with all this fear and unknown. The biggest challenge we had as the leadership team is how do you balance the long and short-term needs of the business and still make sure you're there for the people. And it was tough because you don't want to say that it's okay because you don't know that it's okay, but we also know that we had to stay open. The best thing we could do for the population, Peets is an iconic brand. We've been here a long time. The best thing we can do for everybody is to stay open and keep their jobs. And it was literally, we had a great plan. We had it in place on a Friday. We had the population split up. It was going to be, you're in an A group, I'm in a B group. The CEO was A, I was B, so we were never going to cross-contaminate. It was all set up, and then that Sunday night, Governor Newsom here shut everything down. That went out the window. We would make the best decision on a Monday night, and Tuesday afternoon, we had to make a different one. And so the first thing first was to stay open, but then we had to keep deciding. We had to keep acting. And we didn't have time to go get together and, have big, long PowerPoint decks over it. We just had to go. And you had to kind of collectively rely on a lot of experience to figure out what's the best way to do right by the people and keep the business open. Okay, so the second thing I would say, as we did all that, so we had to get the math going and the business is down. It's a real human side, and particularly all of you is, the fraternity, it's all people, right? And we had to understand the range of emotions, and people were up and down. And we thought, boy, in March, I remember I go back and I look at emails I sent to my leadership team and I said, hey, great, we got 3 more weeks, and whether you intellectually knew that we were in this for a while or not, you couldn't let yourself feel that way. So we had to keep saying, well, we're going to be out of it soon. And then the weeks kind of drag on and they drag on and they drag on. An old CEO of mine, great mentor, used to say, where you stand depends on where you sit. So what we had to do is recognize everybody's in a different spot. All of a sudden the kids are at home. My kids are 15, 13, and 12. We can put them in front of a Zoom. They can go do their thing. People who are walking around the neighborhood with kids that are 3 to 5, my God, you got 2 parents working. How do you do that? We had younger folks who just started in the company. How do you teach somebody the culture when they're not in the culture? And people starting out in their careers, you had a husband and a wife that are both working from home in a 1-bedroom apartment. And there was a lot of pain in that. We were on one level very, very fortunate that We were at a different stage, my wife and I, in our career. We had the room in the house and the kids were at a different spot. But I was finding myself with everybody trying to figure out where exactly they were. And people were moving all around. And everybody, as we've come to learn out of this, whether it's a mom or an aunt or a brother, everybody's got a personal situation. So, part of my style has always been to put things in perspective. I use a little bit of humor where I can. And you see a picture here, which is this right here, the glitter jar. And I'll tell you the story about the glitter jar. There are some Fridays, I've got a leadership team meeting every Friday. And this is a leadership team comprised of vice presidents and senior directors, really responsible, accomplished people. My 12-year-old daughter gave me the glitter jar here for Christmas. It was part of a class. And she said, hey, I'm going to give you one. You take it to work. And if you're having a bad day, just shake it. And it's nice and sparkly and it'll make you feel better. And this was one Friday, you're kind of looking at the Zoom and everybody just looked like they had just gotten kicked in the head. And probably some of them had, but they were just done. So I commissioned Francesca and I said, I need 11 glitter jars. And she made 11 glitter jars and I put them on people's desks. And we had to laugh a little bit and we just needed to smile. And then if we're having a bad week on numbers, the numbers aren't good, I can be on a Zoom call and everybody's waving a glitter jar. And it became one of those things that it was just, we had to kind of take the business pressures away because there's a different thing around every corner. We're performing better than we ever did and we have to do more because we have part of our business that has just been decimated. So the Peets business is, you can buy us in a grocery store, you buy us online, that's great. Our retail business, that's not in good shape. We had a business where we're selling to colleges and universities. Hey, if they're not open, we're not selling coffee. So we have part of the business that's just off the charts, and the other parts that's decimated. So you have to find a way to laugh. So the glitter jar is just a good thing. It's here on my desk today. It's always there. And I had to find a way to kind of take some of the pressure off of the business because you can't wake up and keep seeing this every day and every day. It's just too much because then you go home and or you don't leave home rather, and you've got the stuff with your kids or your family or your parents on top of it. The next slide here. And then the third thing, and I really do believe this, and this is something I've learned over the years, and not trying to be flippant about this, but never waste a crisis. So in all of this, and it takes a while to see it, in all of this is what are the things, where are the opportunities? Because what this also did too, once we got past the whole, are we going to be open tomorrow, is all right, I got a crisis. What does this crisis allow me to do to my business to make structural changes, people, organizations, funding, allocation of resources that I could have done before, but it would have had a lot of pushback. Because now I got a crisis, I can say, hey guys, look around, everything's changing. We're going to go create change, right? And we've adopted the model here that we're not going to go, quote unquote, back to normal because history doesn't go back to normal. We got to go forward. So what are we going to do to go forward and do things a little differently? What change do we want to be permanent? We were on a board call today and our chairman said something, great quote, wrote it down. And we're owned by a private equity group, and the same group, they own Panera and Pret a Manger and Keurig Dr. Pepper and Krispy Kreme. So you can imagine that, Panera and Pret a Manger, primarily retail business, they've got a whole set of challenges I'm thankful I don't have business-wise. But he said, you know what? And I look at our portfolio companies, the people that are winning are the ones that are most adventurous in trying new things. The people that are winning are the ones that are most adventurous in trying new things. And I think it's a really important part of, the conversation here around, hey, you know what? We can go try it now because in the business world, everybody's expecting the year to get written off. And there's no penalty for trying something new. You're like, hey guys, it's a pandemic. I'm going to do this. What do you mean? It's as good a choice as anything else. So that courage to try something new, it's honestly, in a lot of ways, probably never been easier. And then the bottom part here, and I really do believe this, this is the kind of thing that makes or breaks people's careers, right? You can see a whole lot of things. I can see where we were ready as an organization to respond, where we had organizational gaps. I can see, I got a whole group of people that's working incredibly, productively offline or not even coming into the office. I see other places I say, well, I don't, I guess I don't need 3 directors over there. We don't need this, or there's a lot of exposures. It helps you get real clear about what's most important to the company, who are the most important people, who can lead a group. And I think the real challenge here, and it's really applicable, you know, for many of you, is how do you lead then remotely? If I think of productivity now and how we've tried to do that and motivate people, you know, the amount of freedom we have of not having 10 people go to a meeting room anymore. And part of that motivation is, you know what, we're going to go, we'll meet remotely. We'll go for a walk. We'll go in and out, and we'll have smaller, more productive discussions. And there's even more flexibility than we've had before. And I've always been a manager that I don't really care in a lot of ways, you know, where you're working as long as you're productive, but it really opens things up now. So somebody says, I got to go, you know, proctor my kid at school and get the 6th grader or the 6-year-old up and running, and I'm offline from 10 to 11, and I don't have a problem with that. And we explicitly state, you got to do what you got to do, because people are figuring this out. And I think part of that freedom and then the motivation that comes with that gives people a little bit of confidence. I also found in this too, that a number of folks, and I wouldn't have even expected this, were really worried about their jobs. Some of our most talented people. And I had to take a step back and say, okay, wow, you know, we've got to find the right level of communication here to make sure we're taking that off the table. And it was a good reminder here to never assume that you're communicating enough, or that you're clear, or that you understand that. So the crisis here has allowed us, we're reshaping parts of our business. We're having some really hard conversations around performance with some people that we probably should have had a long time ago. And I've learned this lesson many, many times in my career. And, you know, you always make those people changes too late, 6 months too late. And this kind of forces that, because you have to get really, really clear on, you know what, I'm going to do fewer things. Here are the folks I want in the boat. Here are the people that can expand their responsibility. And here's where we have challenges. Not easy, but that's what a crisis does. So you really have to take advantage of a crisis. Can't do it right away. You kind of have to absorb the crisis, recognize it, and then get out in front of it a little bit. All right. I talked about humor before. I showed up at a town hall with, you know, one of the divisions I lead, and I put this slide up. There we go. It builds. And I said, you know, guys, this is kind of how I feel today. Like it is Groundhog Day all over again, right? And what I really found was some of them where I got the most feedback, you could see people laugh. And you can also be really clear, hey, we still got to run the business, right? And results still matter. And all those things didn't change. Matter of fact, they actually got amplified, because part of the business that's thriving has to do even more. We're at record levels, and we have to do even more to compensate for the rest of the company that's going sideways, right? And I have found that the more transparent and the more honest we are at this point in time, the more motivating it is. And that has been some of the best feedback, where people have appreciated that, because this is not the time to get, if there's ever a time, I think, my perspective here, to not have, you know, a hierarchical organization, but to really say, you know, we're all here on the same level. I got out on we have delivery folks that sell product into grocery stores. I went out riding on routes with them right in the early stages in March and April. We had to get out there. We had to show that everybody was all in. I show up in an office here as much to show people that it's safe to go to the office. And we just have to say, we still have to run the business. I'm going to tell it like it is. And I know every day is getting harder. It was somehow, when we came back to school in September, it was even worse. Because I think somehow you got yourself believing that, boy, you know, the summer it's going to be better. That's a little bit harder now. And then my last slide here, and as Sean and I were talking about, you know, kind of your leadership philosophy. And this came from a book called Napkin Notes on the Art of Living. And I got this sent to me at Santa Barbara before I joined the fraternity staff back in 1989. A couple pages I photocopied. When I get new direct reports, I send this to them as part of my philosophy. People who want milk should not seat themselves on a stool in the middle of a field in hopes that a cow will back up to them. And I think it's simple. I've really believed in it. One of the things that I've always loved about that SigEp staff year is that you had to get up and do that. You had to go make something happen. It makes me crazy around here when somebody says, well, we'll just wait till this gets back to normal. and we let our customers know we're here, and they'll send us an order when we're ready. I'm like, no. Like, if we don't do that, somebody else is going to show up and take our airport location. Somebody else is going to show up at the University of Massachusetts and take our coffee. And I think this is the time where people really do have to dig deep and go create those opportunities. The flip side of that, go back to talking about the careers, and part of the motivation here, if you get the right folks, is what people have thought about here, at least what's been played back, and you see it. There's never been a bigger time where people can make a real impact on the company. And I think that's certainly something that's applicable as you think about, hey, how do I approach things on campus? I have to stay open. I have to keep recruiting people. I have to do these kind of things that are the basics. And you know what? Now's a time where you can't be dependent on all those other things for people to come to you. I have to go to them. I have to go make something different. I have to go create something new. And then I think as you lead through this from the undergraduate perspective, or if those of you are on the screen here that are newer in your careers, this is a time to try new things. But as I can tell you, people are making their careers on that. And I've always believed in this simple statement that the people that are ones that can go out and make things happen without somebody having to tell them to go do that, that's where careers are made. And that is actually the most motivating thing to people. Because I've also said what goes with this is, I've said, as another old mentor of mine said, hey, make errors of commission and not omission, because we're not penalizing you for a mistake. Because frankly, I am very comfortable with being wrong. I'm really good at being wrong. In a leadership role right now with a company that's going up and down, and you know, we got social unrest, we got the rest of that, and we're a Berkeley-based company. We've got, you name it, there's something new every day. We've got people that have to take leaves because they can't handle childcare. So everything that I do, I've got to have in my head, you know what, that's the best decision I can make right now. As I get a new set of facts, I'm going to make another set of decisions. And I'm not going to worry about being wrong. I am going to worry about not doing something. And that's a real important takeaway here, especially in a crisis. You can't worry about being wrong, and you've got to do something. And I think that, if you remember nothing else, that has served me well over my career. Because the beauty of being on the staff experience, you know, those of us that did nothing, you know, it didn't work out too well. And I think when you get the right group, if you think about what you've got in the chapter, the people that can get up and go make something happen, that's who you want to be with. All right, I think I'm right at my 20-minute mark here, Sean. So I'll stop and turn it back to you and tell me if there's any questions out there or comments.
Absolutely. So Eric, thank you for all of your words of wisdom and things you're bringing to us here. Want to open this up to you guys, as you know, whether you're from a volunteer background, whether you're coming as an undergraduate here. What questions do you have? What things do you want to know more about? Where do we want to dig in and learn more with Eric while we have him with us here? You can toss those in the chat. You can use the Q&A function.
If I can, let's see, can you hear me?
Yep, and we've got you.
Hi, Eric. Ian Locke, Nevada Alpha. I guess I'm about 4 or 5 months into my presidency, and I'm just finishing my management degree. I've got my eyes on an MBA program, and I've found that leadership in my own chapter seems pretty similar to, you know, like a board position in the corporate world. I'm curious how you found that, you know, a chief position was for you. Did you know that when you were in college, or did it getting to the point where you were immersed in the professional field already?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I know for a fact, I didn't set the goal to be a C-level executive. What I really believed in, I'm a competitive guy. I kept learning, I kept growing. And I don't say I fell into it. I think I created the results that enabled the opportunity, but I get bored pretty easily. So I want the new challenge. So I've accepted the new challenges, and that's what's kind of come with that. And I also think, you know, I'm just wired as such that, you know, I will get bored, I will get complacent. But I think when you get to a certain stage, and it might have been, I left Clorox to go take a VP position. I also left Clorox because I knew the culture wasn't for me. And then at a certain different life stage, you look around, you say, hey, I'm working for people that I can do that, and I want to do that. But more importantly, I think my balance here is I've had opportunities to leave just to go be a CEO. I've chosen not to do that. I've where I work, who I work with, who I report to is more important to me. It really almost always has been than the title, because I believe the titles, and I've seen it, I've proven it over my career, the titles kind of follow the results and they catch up with you. What's really hard to do is to work with a company and for a company and with people that you've got a lot of respect for and you learn from. Peets is a great brand. I've always loved. I've been fortunate to work with some great brands, great U.S. brands, from Crest to Pampers to Clorox. And everybody tells it, and Peets is a great, coffee's an emotional category. So part of that's the company, part of that's the opportunity. And then you just kind of keep driving, and that's kind of how I got here. I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Most definitely. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Hey, Eric. This is De Niro Gomez from California Theta. I don't know if you can hear me pretty well.
How are you? How's SAC?
It's going all right. It's a little hot still, but
yeah,
we're making it through.
Great.
Well, it seems like your leadership style has been growing for the better because of this, because you're learning new things and obviously growing. I'm kind of wondering, do you ever think your leadership style will revert to the time before COVID?
No, I don't think so. I really don't, part of why, look, I'm very fortunate to have worked at Procter and Clorox. I also, I don't have the patience to work in big companies. So I think that's part of what drove me back to the startup world. But I really do believe people are more motivated when they can make decisions. And I'm also really clear, I'm not the best person to make all the decisions. What I want to do is create the environment where people are free to make those decisions. They have the ownership. They're accountable for those results. People sometimes don't understand those too. If you want to make the decision, then you own the result, and you got to be accountable for that. And that goes hand in hand. But I get more energy out of that than I do, and I don't have the capacity right now to go run everybody's business for them. I'm the supply chain and the manufacturing plants reporting to me. I don't have a manufacturing background, so I can't tell somebody how to go do that job. Where I can help them is understand what are the principles and the process they're using on the decision making. What does your succession plan look like? How are you leading? What are the results you're getting? What were you expecting to? How do you expect to get different results? How do we allocate capital? Those are the kind of things I help them with. Up on the sales side that I grew up in, I probably have a different level of, I definitely have a different level of understanding, because I've done that job. I can have a different conversation there. But no, I don't think so. I think what's really energizing now, when a remote group of people comes together, figures it out, all from different experiences going on, and we're producing phenomenal numbers. We've got a business on the CPG side, the consumer packaged goods side, that's up 20 some odd % against a category that's up 10. We're growing share, we're growing margin. We got a online business that's direct to consumer that was $20 million this year. It's going to do 40. I look at that, and if I was trying to micromanage that, we'd be nowhere near as successful. What I want to do is create the environment for people to do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get a couple more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up and split out into breakout rooms to spend a little more time on some of these topics and get to know a couple other chapter presidents around the country with you. But let's get a couple more questions. What else do you have?
Yeah, this is Bryce Giesler. I'm the balance man steward for Tennessee Alpha.
Hi, Bryce.
I'd like to know how mentoring, both as a mentor and as a mentee, has helped you with your career. And I don't know if they had it actively going when you were in school, but if it did, how did it help you when you were in the chapter?
Yeah, we didn't have it actively going in when I was in school. I'll tell you that. I think I have so many great mentors to this day, the majority of them through the fraternity experience. I talked about when I didn't go to Procter & Gamble, I went to SigEp. The regional director at that time, Kevin Otero, called me on some BS. I was trying to dance around him as a chapter president. From that moment on, that guy's been a great friend, a great mentor. We worked together at Procter & Gamble. He's currently CEO of a company in Phoenix, one of the first people one of the first people I called when this whole thing happened. Is like, hey, Kevin, how are you dealing with this? And we've continued to stay in touch, even though we probably haven't seen each other in 5-6 years. I have a number of other mentors. I go to lunch out here with Barry, or breakfast rather, with Barry Posner every few months, who's another great SigEp. I play the same role with a number of more junior people on this team. What I've also found here, and it's a great actually bridge back to one of the methods I've done here, is I stopped, and I think it goes back to the last question too. I've made a more conscious point. If I have a question on somebody's report and that person reports to somebody, reports to me, I set up time with that person because I don't have that time in the office anymore. So we're providing that touch point with more junior people, and I can tell that impact because that gets played back to me. So I really do believe it's a great buzzword, but you really have to do it. And I can tell you, I think that importance has only grown as I've gone deeper in my career. I still have an executive coach that I see every 4 weeks. And I think you never get past the point where you need somebody else to help you think something through or give you an extra set of eyes or tell you you're full of it when you are. So all those things are true. Really, really important.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get one more question to close it out here.
Hi, Eric. Christian Harrison, NCMU Elon. You mentioned earlier about always looking to learn and always looking to improve. What are some things that you've done along the way to improve yourself and to make yourself better?
Well, so in addition to the glitter jar on my desk, this is a little rock, says patience on it, right? So I carry a patience rock. It's the Italian in me. I like to say, you know, we need to take an extra heartbeat sometimes. So one of the things that I've done to make myself better, it's a reminder, whether that is, you know, I'm going to go walk around the office before I send that email. I'm going to ask a question before I jump into that. If there's anybody on this call that worked with me when I was back in Richmond as a young staff member, patience would not be one of the first things that they would have said about me. And I think that's a big thing that I've continued to work on over the years. We had a value here at Peets when I started, which is a great corporate value that I've never seen anywhere else, the value of curiosity, which is powerful. It's a real powerful value and it's practiced because it gives me the permission to ask a question. It sets the expectation to ask a question. So I've tried to be really curious. And I think particularly in this time is really humbling because you can't just say, well, I know what to do. Anybody who tells you they know what to do in a pandemic is full of it, right? Like you don't know what to do. And you've got to be really principled. You've got to be really clear and purposeful. You've got to communicate well, but you don't know what to do. So I think I continue to work on patience. I work on humility. I work on continuing to be curious all the time. And the humility, I go back to that, is I really do believe it's okay to fail. And I tell all my team, my direct reports, you know, it's okay to screw up. And you have to make the environment safe to make mistakes. You just have to, because otherwise, if I'm afraid to do that, I can't lead effectively. But also when I turn around and say, hey guys, I blew that one, right? That's really freeing for a lot of people. So those are just some of the things that I work on. But I do a lot of the visual cues, and it's just something that, you know, if I'm on a call and I'm looking at a patient's rock, it's one more step where I can say, maybe I don't want to say that right now. And I've never not regretted, sending an email late at night. I'll tell you that. So patience is a big one for me.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you for the questions, everyone. Eric, thank you for your time. Are there any last words you'd like to leave us with?
You know, the only last words are, I think all the buzzwords of this time has been used. Like this is, make the best decision you can today. Don't be afraid to make a different decision tomorrow, but you got to take action. You got to take action. You got to be clear. You've got to communicate. And I also think when you get past the scariness of all this, because it is scary, I've got, you know, kids that are, you know, it's looking at this world through a 12-year-old's eyes, it's a little daunting. But there is an opportunity here. And don't think about, quote unquote, when things go back to normal. You think about what do you want that new normal to be? And I think there's a huge opportunity here that is where the motivation is. And opportunities like this, they don't come around too often. Still scary, all those unknowns, all that's true. At the same point in time, it's a huge opportunity. So that's all I got. There we go. Oops, did I do that? All right.
Absolutely love that. I love the call to action and to act as well. We'll get into those here in some of our breakout rooms and talk about how you guys can take that and apply that. We'll do an experiment with this just to give a proper thank you. If everybody wants to unmute and clap it up for Eric here, let's get some energy flopping around.
Thanks, brothers.
All right, fantastic.
Good to be with you tonight. Good luck to you all.